Hey, what's up everybody? 3D Theory here. So we got a really fun video for you today. If you guys remember the AlgoLaser DIY Kit MK2, we got a couple of add-ons that they had sent us, one of them being the Rotary Roller RR2, along with some extension legs for the AlgoLaser here itself. So I'm going to go ahead and open these up and we'll take a look at what they sent. So this rotary roller is usually used for cylindrical objects. So it rolls the cylindrical object as it laser engraves onto it. So you can do things like tumblers and flashlights and anything really that's cylindrical. So let's open this up and give it a look. All right guys, the first thing we have in the box is the quick start guide, and let's take a look at what's inside of there. Looks like pretty much how to set up the AlgoLaser, as well as some software settings you want to prepare in Lightburn before you get started. So that's going to be very helpful, as well as setting up the rotary roller on whichever device you have. That about does it for this here bag. It's really nice, by the way, that they provide declaration of conformity, test report, certification of conformity. So these are all really official certifications or paperwork. So that's really nice to see. All right guys, so in the box here, we open it up and it's nicely sealed in this plastic. And that about does it for what's in the box. All right, and we just go ahead and pull it out of the bag here. And I like the fact that it's got the same kind of color scheme going on, the black, white, and the red, matching the AlgoLaser itself. Along with that, we have some wires here, and it looks like it tells you exactly which wire you're gonna apply to which AlgoLaser you have. So since we have the DIY Kit MK2, we can look for whichever wire is gonna connect with that. And it actually says it right here. It says Delta, and then on this one we have the DIY kit, if you can see it there. All right guys, it also comes with a little screwdriver as well as a little hex key and that little side with the wheels there as well. And while we're opening stuff up, let me just open up the little extension legs here. There's 4 of these in there. So as I open this up here, we're just gonna pretty much have 4 of these, which we're gonna put on to the bottom of the AlgoLaser, and I'll show you that in a moment. And last but definitely not least, it comes with these little screws that you could put in to one of these bars here. I don't know which area it's going to go in specifically, but we'll read the instructions and see how that goes. All right guys, so this adjusting bracket here is basically meant for goblets, and you can find out about it in the instruction manual. I'm not going to be using that, so I'm just going to quickly demonstrate what you can do with it. So if it's on, say, the first screw hole, you just align it with those little circles on the bottom there. And if it's on the second screw hole, likewise, you just scoot it over one so that it's on the next row, and so on and so forth. But since we're not going to be doing goblets in this video, I'm not going to attach this on because I won't be needing it. All right guys, before we set up the rotary roller onto the AlgoLaser itself using this wire, I'm actually going to raise it up first. All right guys, so on the AlgoLaser here, we have our legs, and each of the bottom of the legs, there's these little holes, and those little razors have a little screw top. So we're just gonna go ahead and screw it in. And I thought that it didn't have any threading in there, but it does. So it just screws right in just like that, and it's ready to go. And I'm gonna do the same for all 4 sides here. All right guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and screw it down here, and I'll get this back side going just like this. And finally, I'm gonna do the back one here. And what this does is it raises up the AlgoLaser so that it has room for the rotary roller and the tumbler or whatever you're going to be using. In this case, you're going to be doing a tumbler, so that the laser can actually reach the top of that tumbler because it gets up pretty high. All right guys, so now we're pretty much ready to put in this little cable here, and it's super easy. What we do, we got 2 sides. One goes to the cable that's supposed to go to the stepper motor that brings it forward and backward like this, but since we're not going to need that, it's just going to go to the rotary roller instead, and that's this cable we're going to be putting in the rotary roller. So I'll show you how that's done right now. All right, so we got that rotary roller on the back of the unit here. We have the place for this cable. We're just going to pop that in nice and easy. And for this next wire here, we're just going to go ahead and pop this wire out that was on that stepper motor and just pop it in here. Make sure you're putting it the right way. There you go. And that was as simple as that for setting up the rotary roller's hardware. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and grab the tumbler that I'm going to be using and make sure I adjust the height of the laser as well as the width of these rollers here to the correct size. All right guys, so here's the cool tumbler that we're going to be working on today. And there's a lot more accessories that come with this, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But for the time being, here is the rotary roller. This knob here loosens up this belt like you would on a 3D printer. And these, there's one knob here and one knob here. You would want to just unscrew just like that, as well as the other one. And we're going to just want to adjust this to whichever point we want to have it, which for us, we want to make sure it's over a little bit more. Let me take this off really quick. Maybe I'll go all the way to the very end. Let's see how that is. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Now that's all the way to the end. I'm gonna go ahead and stick these screws back in to the sides, just like that. And then this one here until it's nice and tight. And there you have it. These rollers have a lot of grip to them. And what we wanna do is make sure this belt is nice and tensioned. Not too much, not too little, just like how you would on a 3D printer, I'd imagine. Yeah, and that's working really nice, as you can tell there. All right, we'll just pop that on there, give it a roll. Yeah, that's working great. Very nice. And now the important part is that we want to align this rotary roller as horizontally as we possibly can get it, aligned with the horizontal bar here, which to me is looking pretty decent. So I'm going to pop this on there and go ahead and raise the laser up high as I possibly can and bring it over to where it's going to be. I'm going to set the laser down on it like that. And as you remember, our little focusing tool here, we're just going to pop that in the middle, just like that. That's how we know it's focused. And I'm going to give it a nice tightening. And since the laser is up so high now, I'm going to want to raise this little screw I got going on over here a hole or two up so that it can actually grip the laser. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it at the very top hole here because we got 5 holes as options. And take out that little focusing tool there, and it's ready to engrave. All right, guys, so I'm just gonna run you through how to update the software to the AlgoOS 2.3 really quick. So I'm just gonna unlock it here, turn it on. All right, guys, so the first thing we're gonna wanna do is go to settings, make sure we're connected to the Wi-Fi. All right, guys, now that we're connected to the Wi-Fi, we're just gonna go ahead and do an update. And while we're in the settings, we're just gonna click down, go over to firmware, and it's checking for the updates. The last one we had is V1.5.1. So as it's checking for the updates, we'll probably get the version 2.3 coming pretty soon. All right, and now we can just click to update, and now it's gonna start updating. All right, guys, so we got the firmware updated to AlgoOS 2.3. There's some really cool options on here, so we're gonna go ahead and check those out now. All right, guys, so the cool features that have been updated with AlgoLaser 2.3 that I find to be the coolest of them all is you just start out with projects, you go over to your SD card, there's a folder with preloaded images in this new update. There was specifically one that I liked, and it was 13, a really cool tiger image. And I'm doing this all without any sort of external software. So we're gonna click engraving here, and I'm gonna change the materials right in the software here. And I'm going to be putting it on an aluminum card here. So I'm going to put coated metal. I want it to really show up. So I'm going to go ahead and click that option there because it has the most defined look. So I'm going to go ahead and click confirm. And you could also change the quality, the power, the mode, the speed, the passes. So I'm just going to go ahead and click processing now. And from there, you actually can move this around and it moves the laser. Let's take a look at that in action. All right, guys. So as I move this image around, it also moves the laser head around, which is super helpful compared to how we were doing it before. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab my aluminum card here, just pop it really anywhere. I'm just going to put this little clip down so it stays in its spot, just like that. And maybe I'll put another one on the side here. All right, so that aluminum card is set down perfectly right there. And I'm just going to see if I can move this image over and visually get an idea of where it's going to be. Can I change the size of this? Let's see if I can do a 45 here because I want to get it to be on that card, so I just adjusted the size there. All right, guys, and I want to show you what I'm looking at over here. So we have the blue card there, and when I click frame, you're going to see this little blue laser that shows where it's going to engrave. So I'm going to move it up just a tad bit, ever so slightly, and frame it again. And that's looking closer and closer. I just want to give it a little bit more height there and over to the right. And we're almost there. I just want to bring it down just a tad bit, and I think this is going to be it. You could fine tune it as long as you want, but that there is looking spot on for me. All right, guys, now that we have this framed up, the last thing we're going to want to do is with their provided calibration tool here, you just pop it on your surface that you're going to be engraving on and loosen one of these screws until The laser rests on that calibration tool there. Then we're just going to tighten it, and we're going to slip that tool right out from underneath it, and it's ready to go. AlgoLaser also provides some safe glasses here for using the laser, so always wear these before running a laser, and we're simply just going to press start and we're ready to go. And I just want to show you while this thing is engraving here that down here it tells you 9 minutes remaining for the engraving. We're about 4 or 5% right here with the progress bar up top, as well as 24 seconds into the engraving itself. So once this thing finishes up, we'll take a look at the results. And with this new AlgoOS 2.3, you can get up and running so quickly. If you guys have seen my first video, you saw all the back and forth I went through. But now with this new firmware update, it's a lot easier, and you saw how fast I got up and running with it. And in all honesty, I haven't had any sort of practice with this thing, and this is the first time I'm running it after the update. So once it's done, we'll take a look. There is one thing I forgot to mention. As you can tell, there's a noise going on. I forgot that we have the compressor over here, so I just went over to the side here. I turned the knob and turned it on, and that compressor is helping clear that build surface there. So I'll just let this thing continue to go, and I'll show you the end result when it's done. All right, guys, that was really fast. It took 4 minutes. And let's check out the results here. I'm just going to move this out of the way and grab the aluminum card. Wow. And take a look at that. That looks fantastic. The resolution on that is great as well. And if you could take a look, that took 4 minutes with a preloaded image on it, and it looks fantastic. And once it's finished, we just click finished here, and it takes you back to the library, and you could just go back to the home screen. All right, guys, that was just a little sneak peek at AlgoOS 2.3. But there are a ton more features you can check out. Please make sure to visit their YouTube page and check out all the features that they mention about the AlgoOS 2.3. You could even click Algo Type over here, and you could type in any sort of message you want over here and get that engraved just as quickly as you saw me do with that tiger face. All right, guys, let's move on to the next part of this video where we're going to showcase a couple of extra add-ons that they sent us to check out. All right, guys, once we have the cable plugged in, like we need to, and we went over to settings, clicked machine working mode, and selected ARR roller mode, and we've also adjusted width to meet the object size we're going to be using. Let me actually take this back here. We can pop that on there and give it a try just to make it go forward and backward. And as you can tell, let's see if I could zoom in here. As you can tell, it's rotating and doing what it needs to be doing. Now, this is my first time trying this out with the AlgoOS 2.3, but I think you could just pop an image on there, line it up, and just start going to town and having it laser engrave. But before I use it on this thing, I have a little test 3D print that I did of this cup so that we can just give it a try without messing up the first one. So it's kind of like a test run. All right, guys, so what I did was I got my Nickelodeon USB. I put my 3D Theory logo on there, and I didn't use Lightburn or anything. So this is what I want to test out with the new AlgoOS 2.3 without going into Lightburn and get it engraved on this cylindrical object using the Rotary Roller RR2. All right, guys, once I got the USB in there, I'm just going to go to Projects, USB Disk, the 3D Theory icon in PNG form. Let's try invert color. Maybe we'll go with invert because it's black in the background, and I'm pretty sure black usually means to exclude the background. So let's go engrave. And what do you know? I think we're going to be able to do this. Let's choose if there is a plastic option. Yeah, there's acrylics here, so maybe we can go with an acrylic. There's polyvinyl chloride, black ABS sheet. So I think I'll just go with black ABS sheet, even though we got PLA over here. And since it is PLA, I'm going to go with a lighter one just in case. Let's do this one here. We'll go confirm. We'll go over to processing. And now we'll start the focusing process, which, as you remember, involves this here. I'm just going to bring over the laser just over it, and as centered as I possibly can, loosen this screw, raise it up, drop it down on that focusing tool, and tighten it up. We're ready to go. And just in preparation, I'm going to wear the goggles that they provided, the glasses, to protect against the laser beam. And I made sure that I got enough ventilation in here. I opened all the doors and windows. And now that we're done focusing, I'm going to click next. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that there. And the last thing left to do is just click start. All right, guys, so it finished up, and let's take a look at what we got here. Now, it's super faint, but you can see the bottom of that G there, and maybe it just didn't show up on that bright yellow there. And it looks like it's actually doing its thing, except that background is showing up. So I'm wondering if maybe we shouldn't invert it and it would come out fine, but it's really light and faint as you can see it there. I'm gonna do another test engraving here, and why I find this to be so amazing is that you don't really need light burn if this works. You just need an image, and you can do it all through AlgoOS 2.3, and I find that to be super handy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and inverse the colors, increase the strength a little bit, and see if I can get it to show up on that yellow there. All right, guys, it finished up. Let's take a look at this. And there you go. It showed up. And what this means for me is that you don't need an external software. Although I do want this flipped around this way, this just goes to show that it's definitely possible. So I'm very happy with how this came out as a test. I'm going to go ahead and start the next steps for the actual tumbler piece. All right, guys, so what I'm doing to prepare this tumbler piece is I just got a sheet of paper. I lined it up to that top blue edge there and made a little mark on where I want the engraving to potentially go. And I wrapped the sheet of paper around to get an idea of the diameter when it's flattened out. And I know you could probably do some sort of equation for this, but without getting into the math and all that, I think this is kind of a straightforward way of doing it. So when you unwrap this, this is pretty much the entire diameter of the tumbler minus 0.3 millimeters, which I'm gonna be cutting off in my measurements because that's what was overlapping with the paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and just wrap this around again and make markings where I want my logo to go, which I wanna have my logo here on the front, and directly on the back, I wanna have a little phrase that I'm gonna be putting on, which I think you guys would like. So I'm just gonna grab a pencil here and I'm just gonna mark it up. I want, let's say, the logo to be about that big, just by eye. I like the way that size would be. And then directly on the back, I'm gonna have my phrase like that. So let me take a look, make sure everything is as I want it to be. And I'm just kind of looking where the center of my logo is to the center. I want it to be about there. So I'll bring this over just a tad bit and try to get an equal distance from that center point. And we could always work with our software to make that happen. And my goal here is not to use light burn. I want to see if I can make this happen without actually using the light burn software. So I'm going to hop into Affinity, which I purchased recently, and we'll get this created. All right, guys, so we're here in Affinity Photo 2. We're just going to go over to Document here and Resize Canvas, and I want to show you that we measured out 276.4 millimeters by 96 millimeters here, which is the entire surface of the rolled out tumbler. And when I measured where I want my images to be, I measured them from the center of my logo to the center of the text. All right, and that's way too big, so I'm going to go ahead and scale that down to where I feel I want it to be. I think that's looking good. I'm going to make sure we're in the center of this space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on snapping so I could snap to the center here, just like that. And I want to make sure from this point here onto the center of my image is exactly 52 millimeters from this edge to the center of my image. We're just going to go over to View, Show Rulers, and we're in millimeters here. And from this point here, we need to have 52 millimeters. So we're at 276.4 millimeters for the entire width of this document, and we need it to be 52. So I'm just going to go ahead and minus 52, and we need to drag over a guide to 224.4 or thereabout. So I'm just going to click and drag and go over to 224.4 as best as I can. All right, and that's pretty close. It's 224.5. And from there, I want to get the same 276.4, and subtract the 190, which is going to line up the center of my text to that guide. And that's going to be 86.4. So I'm going to grab that and go to 86.4. And that's working out for me there. And once we're done putting our guides, I'm just going to go ahead and line this up just like that. I'm going to break out the text tool here and type in the text that I want, which is, I'd rather be 3D printing. I think I actually would like to make this all caps here. So just going to write that again, just like that. Lined it up there, as well as there. I'm going to zoom out and see if I like this. One thing I do want to do is scale it down just a little bit, because I feel like if it's too big, you're going to have to turn the cup too much to be able to read it. And you know what? 36 looks good to me. Now there's one thing that I just realized is that I do need to flip this so that it prints out on the tumbler in the correct orientation. So I'm going to go to Document, Resize Canvas, and I'm just going to grab this number, put it here. This was 96. And we're just going to resize that. I'm going to go ahead and grab this, make sure we have it correctly laid out on the board here. And I'm realizing now that these guidelines are incorrect. So we're going to go this way, and we're going to grab this and make sure we are lined up correctly, which is at 224.4, which in this case, the numbers got flipped, so we can just do the 52 where we need to be at. All right, and that's close enough. And likewise, we just need to do 190.2, and that's good. Now with that, I'm just gonna line up one of these just like that. The other side is also correct. So now that this is ready, I'm gonna go ahead and save this out as a PNG, and we'll throw it on the Nickelodeon USB, throw it into the AlgoLaser, and I'll see you out there. All right, guys, so I got the tumbler loaded up on there. For some reason, the measurements were a little off, so we were supposed to have 96 as the height, but when I put 96, it makes it way too large. So I ended up just putting it 86, and I did a little test here. I'd rather be 3D printing. You can kind of see it on this PLA cup I printed out, and there's the logo. I think that's a perfect size, and so I lined it up the same as the test PLA cup. I focused it, and now we're ready to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and click start, make sure I'm wearing my glasses here, and I'll see you when it's done. Alright guys, it finished up. It took 8 minutes and 51 seconds. That is looking really cool if you ask me. I'd rather be 3D printing. I'm going to wipe it down with a microfiber cloth. Alright guys, so after wiping it down, the alignment came out perfect. I'd rather be 3D printing. It did get a little black. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. I'm sure it's my settings, so I'm not sure if I'm maybe doing it for too long or too short. I just got to find a sweet spot. I'm not too sure what it is, but I would like to get a nice polished finish like that. So I'm going to do a little bit of research and find out why it got blackened like this, and I'll come back and let you know what I find out. But nonetheless, it does look really cool. Alright guys, so this second attempt finished up for us. I'm going to go ahead and take it off and let's take a look. That's looking a lot better after I tweak those settings. I'm just going to give it a quick wipe down with this microfiber cloth, and although it's slightly dark, that can come straight off with a little bit of wiping down with this microfiber cloth like I found with this original version that I cleaned up. Alright guys, so after some testing, I found some things out. So first of all, this can be wiped down so it's nice and shiny. You can use isopropyl alcohol or nail polish remover, and I tried different settings here, and what I found to be that gives me the most natural, clean look is this one here, which is at 5K at 60% laser strength. And I used the coated metal setting at the highest quality. And as you can see here, out of all of them, this one was the cleanest one. So that's what I did. So with that in mind, I'm going to use those settings for the next iteration. And there's something else that I found out, that for some reason, when exporting out of Affinity Photo 2, it transfers my measurements from millimeters to pixels, and there's just some strangeness going on in that process. So when I make the width 86 instead of 96, it kind of throws it off center. So this is slightly closer from here to here than from here to here. And so what I did was I got that sheet of paper and I wrapped it around here and saw what the difference was, and we needed to increase the distance of this gap by 21 millimeters, so I shifted it over just a bit and it should be centered out. And once we get that second iteration done, we'll give it a look and see if it's centered out. All right guys, so after wiping it down, it's looking a lot nicer here. Here's the unwiped down version, and here's when I wiped it down. I think the best solution to get it to shine like this is nail polish remover. So I went ahead with microfiber cloth and I used a polish remover to take it out. I did try one more at full strength to see if I can use a nail polish remover, take that out, but at full strength, as you can see, it pretty much scorches the metal and we're not able to get that beautiful silver color. So going back to 5K at 60% with the coated metal setting at highest quality, this was the result, and it looks great. All right, guys, I'm really happy with the way these came out. So I got 5 in stock. It just says, I'd rather be 3D printing, and on the front is the 3D Theory logo. It comes with a lid and a metal straw here, and the lid, and this is the one I was testing out on. I ended up making myself some coffee this morning, as you can tell in there. And on the top, it has this little hole for where you can put in the straw. Let's say you're drinking a cold drink, or on the front, when you're having coffee, you can just sip it. And you would have to leave this open to be able to sip it because you need some air to pass through. But one thing that I feel like I lucked out on with these is I have coffee in here, as you can tell, and it's like sealed tight. Some tumblers that I use on a daily doesn't have that capability. Like if I were to put it in my backpack on the side where the cup holder is and the backpack tilts, it'll spill, but this doesn't spill, which is amazing. So I'm very happy with this. It If you guys are interested, I'm going to do a little flash sale on these. I only have 5 of them, so I'll just put them up on my Etsy pretty soon and have a little merch to be able to offer you guys. So if you guys are interested in getting yourself a 3D Theory tumbler, make sure to get yours before these are gone. All right, guys, so we got a chance to check out the Rotary Roller RR2 that AlgoLaser had sent us. It's really fun once you get the hang of it. There's definitely a learning curve, and at the end of the day, there's going to be some post-processing like you would see with 3D prints from time to time. So laser engraving does have its own skills that are to be acquired and learned, but once you get it down, you can make really cool and fun stuff like this. So once again, I just like to thank AlgoLaser for sending over the Rotary Roller RR2 along with these leg extensions. That about wraps it up here in the tiny 3D print farm of 5 Bambu Lab A1 3D printers. Until next time, peace, love, and joy.